Okay, let's get started. Thanks, guys, for joining today. My name is Jana Fung. I'm going to be hosting today's webinar, The Top Tips for Managing Email with Gmail. And I handle product marketing here at Boomerang. Boomerang is a productivity tool for managing your email more efficiently. And part of my job is to help current customers and users learn how to use the product to its maximum potential and obviously make you guys more productive in your lives. So let's get started. Oh yeah, if you want to join us on social media, our handle is @Boomerang. You can use the hashtag Boomerang webinar, or you can tweet at our handle, which is @Boomerang. Okay, so yeah, let's get started. Back in the old days, when we used to have, or we didn't have the internet yet, mail would exist, but it only came to our houses or our offices once a day. And we would get the mail from our mailman and we wouldn't have to go back to our inboxes to check the mail for the rest of the day. And so that was nice because we were able to kind of take action on our mail and then go about our days, not have to worry about checking it multiple times a day, or especially if we were waiting on something. Nowadays with email, it's become more of almost an epidemic, and it's gotten so huge that there was a study that was conducted early last year, that said there's about 269 billion emails that are sent globally each day. So to put that in perspective, it's about 3 million emails sent every second around the world. And if you are an average office worker, you're likely receiving about 10 dozen emails a day. This study quoted 121 emails a day is what an average office worker will receive. And this email problem isn't really going anywhere. It's actually forecasted to grow over the next 4 years. So by the end of 2021, there's going to be an estimated 316 billion emails sent every day across the world. And so how are we dealing with this? Because, back in the old days, we only had to check our mailboxes once a day. And nowadays, a lot of us have more than one email inbox. We might have our personal email, we have our work email, and maybe another one if we are doing anything else on the side. So today's webinar, I'm going to talk about how to kind of help you manage your email inbox a little bit more productively. So because we aren't getting any more time in the day, but we actually are getting a lot more messages in the day. And especially as we look forward to the future, how are we going to triage all these email messages and get the same amount of work done that we need to do throughout our days? So before we get started, I want to start with a poll. I just want to get a sense of, now that people have joined the call, I want to understand who's on the call today so I can kind of frame some of the examples that I use in the demo today to be a little bit more framed around what you guys do in your job function. So there's a list on the screen. If you can just vote. This is not an exhaustive list. So if you don't fall in any of these kind of buckets of job functions, that's okay. You can just check other, and then in the attendee chat box, can you let me know what you do? So I kind of get a sense of who's on the call today. Okay, cool. So it looks like a lot of you guys are in sales, and then for the other category, sales and HR, and then for the other category, it's like a mixed bag of marketing professionals and admin roles. So cool, thanks. And I'm in marketing, so I have a lot of examples of marketing and as well as sales. It sounds like there's some client service reps as well in the audience. So okay, cool. Well, thanks for letting me know that. In today's agenda, I'm going to cover 2 productivity tips. So how to stay productive with email. I'm also going to cover the best times to send email. And I'm also going to talk about how to manage your inbox with Boomerang. So that's kind of going to go into a demo of Boomerang and also illustrate how to get the most out of your subscription. Whether you're using the free one or the paid one, you should be able to gain some value out of that section. So at the end, I'm going to save some time for questions. So if you guys do have any questions while we go, feel free to ask them in the chat box. I might not get to it like while we're having the presentation, but I'll get to it at the end. So just ask them as we go, and we'll get to it later. And one more thing before we get started, this session is being recorded. So if you need to drop off for some reason, don't worry. We're going to be sending the recording out by the end of the week. So you'll get this information in your inbox later. Right. So how to stay productive with email. There was a study that was conducted a few years ago by the University of British Columbia, and it was actually where they studied 2 subgroups of knowledge workers. And subgroup A, they were allowed to check their emails as often as they wanted to. So they could check their inbox over 100 times a day if they wanted to. And they could also respond as frequently as they wanted to as well. Subgroup B, on the other hand, was only told to look at their emails 3 times a day. So they could take as long as they needed to respond, but they were told to only look at their emails or check their emails 3 times a day. What the study found was that both subgroups, even though they sent and received the same amount of messages, subgroup B actually did so in 20% less time, and they reported feeling less stressed at the end of the day. So the researchers that were checking their emails incessantly, what was happening was the notifications would interrupt their workflow and it would distract them from what they were doing. So they would read it, but because they were doing something else, they would mark it as unread and come back to it later. But when they came back to it, they had to read the email again and they had to process how to respond again. And all of that was wasted time. So the other subgroup, which was subgroup B, they only checked their emails 3 times a day. They were able to focus a lot more. And so they were much more productive to get work done in the same amount of time. And if we think about what we do in our roles, especially if we're, in sales or recruiting, or even marketing and client services, a lot of our jobs is not just to sit in front of our email inbox and check our email. We actually still have to do work outside of our email. Like if we're in sales, we might have to prepare a sales deck, or client services, we might have to prepare invoices for our clients. So there is a lot of work that still needs to be done outside of the email inbox. And so if you can get 20% of your time back in your day to either do, take a break or start a new project or do something more productive, that's like a win. So obviously not checking your emails is a pretty disciplined practice, especially now with mobile phones and notifications everywhere. So Boomerang has a pretty cool tool. It's called Inbox Pause, and I'll show you how to use it a little later in the demo portion of this session. But yeah, so that is the first productivity tip I wanted to talk about. The second productivity tip is the best times to send email. So when we think about email and how we communicate and use email, a lot of the times we use email because we need to get a response to something. We don't want to necessarily interrupt someone's workflow because it might not be very urgent, but we definitely do want a response to something. And so Boomerang conducted a study a few years ago where we studied the timestamp data of millions of emails to see what was the best time to send an email to get a response. And what we found was that a well-timed email is up to 30% more likely to receive a response than a poorly timed one. And so the best time that we found to send an email is to schedule your email to send first thing in the morning between 6 to 7 a.m. to get a 30% higher response rate. And the thinking goes like this. So let's say your email goes out first thing in the morning, and the first thing that people do when they get to their office is they get their morning coffee, they open their inbox, and they start reading through their emails. And if your email is at the top of their inbox, they're more likely to get to it quickly before they get distracted with other things in their day, or if they get pulled into meetings, they're more likely to respond to it quickly if they can get to it quickly. So like on the other hand, if you scheduled an email, or maybe not scheduled, but sent an email late at night and someone has already left for the day, they might read your email, but they might not be, ready to respond at that time. So they'll wait till the next morning. But by the next morning, if you remember, these office workers are getting probably a few dozen emails in between, last night and the next morning. So your email is probably going to be at the bottom of their inbox or nowhere near the top at that point. And so by the time they do see it, or it'll probably be too late, or they might have forgotten about it. And so all this wasted time of like waiting for a response is something we want to reduce as we become smarter with email. The more time that you're waiting for a response is more wasted time. So we obviously want to promote productivity with how we communicate through email as well. So Boomerang also has a pretty cool tool. We call it Send Later, but it's basically a way to schedule your emails. And I'll show you how to use that next as well. So managing your inbox with Boomerang. So this is a kind of a concept that we definitely promote and recommend for everyone. It's called Inbox Zero. And this is also going to be the demo portion of the webinar. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. Let me know if you can see it. All right, so this is probably what your inbox looks like when you look in Gmail. You might have like a few dozen more emails than this inbox. This is just a demo account. But the ideal scenario is that all of the emails that are in your inbox are new and unread. And we're trying to get to inbox zero. And so I'll try to explain that a little bit better. So if we think about the analogy that we made from our mailboxes before the internet existed, when we would check our mail once a day, we would go to the mailbox, take the mail out, read it. And when we read our email, we would either archive it or save it for later. I guess archive is more of a digital thing, but we would either save the piece of mail for later if we needed to refer back to it, or we would take action on it, or we would discard it if we didn't need it. And so that's kind of what we should be doing with our email inboxes, because there's never a time when you would probably read a piece of mail, stick it back in the envelope, and then go back to your mailbox and stick it back in your mailbox because you've already read it. So there's usually something, you take action on it next. And that's why we recommend you doing this with your email so that you don't have a cluttered inbox and you're not always constantly reminded of things that don't require your immediate attention. And so this is my email from this morning. This email is from Roger. It says, Marketing Partnership Q3 2018. Hi, thank you for reaching out. I'd love to work together, but I'm traveling right now. Can you check back in with me next Tuesday? From Roger. So I obviously do want to work with Roger on a partnership, but because it's only Thursday, I don't need to respond right now. However, I also don't want to forget to respond on Tuesday. So most of you probably would just keep this in your inbox and try to hope that you won't forget to respond on Tuesday. But what Boomerang actually allows you to do is to clear this from your inbox, and it'll bring it back to your inbox when you need it. So if you click on this Boomerang button here, this will bring the message back to your inbox at a time that you say. So if you said it in 2 days, it'll come back in 2 days. But for this one, we obviously want to check back in with him on Tuesday. So I'm going to put Tuesday at 6 a.m. And then there's also, you can add a note. So this is really good for sales reps or even marketers who do partnerships, where you can add a note to yourself. So to add context if the email thread is kind of vague. So this one doesn't really say what we talked about. So I'm just going to write, Roger wanted to partner on a webinar. And then here I can say, Tuesday at 6 a.m., remind me of this email thread so I can follow up with him. And then now I'm at inbox zero. This is the desired state that we highly recommend for everyone. And you can use Boomerang for a lot of things, especially the ones like emails that you get that you need to save for later. So like if you're in sales and you travel a lot, you can, and you get like flight confirmations or conference confirmations, you can save those and Boomerang them for the dates that you need them. And you don't have to keep them just sitting in your inbox for like all eternal time until you need it. Another good example for sales reps or people who schedule things, if you have a prospect that you're working and they say, we're not ready to close this deal right now, but can you check back in with me next quarter? You don't want to forget to check back in with them next quarter. So you can Boomerang that email thread to remind you to check back in with them next quarter. So that is inbox zero, and that's managing your inbox and all your incoming messages with Boomerang. there is a tool where you can manage your settings. So I mentioned that this thread is going to come back to the top of my inbox, which is what I have checked here. But you can also have it starred, and you can also have it marked as unread. So these are different settings that you can set up for those messages that are going to boomerang back to the top of your inbox. So the next thing I wanted to show you goes back to our productivity tip of checking your emails only a few times a day. And so Boomerang has a product called Inbox Pause, and it's this button over here that says Pause Inbox. And this actually stops new emails from coming into your inbox so that you don't get distracted throughout the day with all those notifications. So if you click on this, it'll show you all the different options that we allow you to have for Inbox Pause. And the first one is an autoresponder. So it's almost like a vacation, out of office vacation autoresponder. But it just alerts people that, my inbox is paused. I won't see your email for a while. If this is urgent, please contact me at a different email address. You don't have to have that on. It's just a nice to have in case you are going to be pausing your inbox for an extended period of time. Another cool feature is the delivery exceptions. So this is almost like an insurance policy for anyone, like especially in client services, where you don't really want to get all the junk and clutter, but you do want to get any urgent emails from a client. So in this scenario, I still want to get emails from, my family. So I put my mom and my sister's email address here. I put the email address that I had put in my autoresponder. If anyone reaches out to this email address, I'll still get those emails. And then, so like I mentioned, if you're in client services or even if you're in sales and you're working a specific prospect, you maybe don't want to like memorize all of their specific email addresses, and you might not know everyone's on the email thread, all their email addresses, but you can just include their domain, and then that will, like anyone who emails you from that domain, you'll still get those emails. And then you can also use keywords. So if there's any keywords in a specific, or any specific keywords in the emails that you're receiving, you'll still get those. So this one says ASAP, urgent. I might want to add immediately. Any keywords like that, I would want to receive those emails as they come in versus having them paused. So there's a couple ways you can unpause your inbox. You can do it automatically. So in this case, I might want to have my inbox unpause in an hour because I'm giving a webinar right now, so I don't want to be interrupted for the next hour. Or if you actually wanted to take it a level further and mirror the study that we talked about earlier, you can have your emails brought in on a schedule. And so in this case, you can have it come in three times a day, or you can have it 4 or 5 times a day, or you can also have it just 1 or 2 times a day. And the nice thing about that is you can kind of customize when you want your emails to come in. And so it's almost like mirroring, the olden days of when a postman would drop off your mail, and then you would only check it at that time of the day. In this scenario, this is my work email address. So I'm going to put weekdays only, and I'm going to have my emails show up at 7 a.m. So I can read some of my emails on my train ride to work, so I don't have any surprises when I get into the office. I'm also going to have my emails come in at 1 p.m. That will help me catch up with anything that I might have missed in the morning hours, like right after lunch. And then I'm going to have my emails come in at 4 p.m. This is right before I leave the office. So if there's anything I need to wrap up before I take off for the day, I can do so at that time. So, okay, so that's Inbox Pause. I'm going to go ahead and pause my inbox now. You will get one email right after you pause your inbox. And that's an email to allow you to unpause your inbox from any device. So let's say you didn't set up your inbox to unpause automatically. You just did the pause button, and you were gonna manually unpause it later, but you had to leave the office, and now you're not connected to your desktop anymore, so you don't have access to this button anymore. So you can actually check your email from any device, a mobile or tablet. And in this email, you'll see a link to unpause your inbox, and you can do that from your mobile device. So you don't have to worry about not ever having access to your email. So I'm just going to keep that one as unread. that is managing your inbox. And then that's also like kind of controlling the incoming emails that you're receiving. So the next thing I'm going to show you is now drafting emails and how to be more efficient with sending emails, scheduling them and sending them or like as recurring or to follow up. So I have a couple draft emails that I've already prepared here. This one is for our, all hands slides. It's to my coworker, Jeff. It says, "Hey, Jeff, this is a gentle reminder to prepare the marketing slides for our all hands meeting on Wednesday." So I am going to want to click send later because we know that the best time to schedule this email or to send this email is at 6 to 7 in the morning. And I don't necessarily want to be awake at 6 to 7 in the morning just to press send. So I'm going to schedule this for Tuesday at 6 a.m. because the meeting is on Wednesday. So I don't want to necessarily send it right now either. So I'm going to go confirm that. But there is another option before I confirm it. Let's say this all hands meeting is every month. We can actually schedule this to be a recurring meeting. Hold on. Sorry. So we can schedule this as a recurring message. And that way we never have to draft this email again to Jeff. It'll just automatically handle itself. I want to have it start on Tuesday, at 6 a.m. And I'm going to have it monthly, the same week, and with no end date. So that is how you would schedule a message. And you can also now schedule recurring messages for anything that is recurring. This is particularly good for anyone in client services or marketing where you have like weekly or monthly check-ins with your clients and or with your internal clients for marketers, and you need, you want to remind them that you'd like them to prepare something for the meeting or whatever. So that's send later and recurring messages. In this next email, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of email that we send, we are hoping for a response. That particular email that I just drafted, I didn't necessarily need a response. But in this one, this is an invitation list that I need. So I'm looking for a response. And the email says, it's to my coworker, Joe. "Hi, Joe. Our sales event is next month, and I'd like to invite your prospects via email next week. Will you please send me your invitation list by end of day on Wednesday?" So a couple things with this email. We obviously are blocked if we don't get, if we don't get the email or if we don't get the invitation list, we won't be able to perform the role of inviting these prospects. So if you notice, there's going to be a Boomerang logo at the bottom here. And this is basically a reminder for you to follow up if there is no reply. So that's what this is. If there's no reply to this email on Tuesday at 6 a.m., the Boomerang this thread back to the top of my inbox. So I'm going to click that. And I highly recommend just clicking that for any email because you won't get, the email won't show back at the top of your inbox if you get a reply. And that's the desired state, or that's a desired, response that you want. You want a reply. But if you don't get one, then Boomerang comes in and helps remind you to follow up on that email so you don't have to worry about, oh my God, did I send this email to Joe? Is he going to send me back this stuff? Like Boomerang will take care of that for you. So I'm going to go ahead and schedule this for tomorrow at 6 a.m. Just to make sure I give Joe enough time to get his list together. And once I confirm that, I don't have to worry about sending this email anymore. And sometimes people will worry like, oh, do I have to be connected to the internet for this to work at 6 a.m.? And no, you don't have to. So Boomerang takes care of all of that. And now you can just go about your day, especially now that my inbox is paused. We can kind of go about our day to do the other things that we need to do throughout the day that doesn't involve email. Okay, so that's kind of how we would recommend managing your inbox with Boomerang. There's one more thing I want to show you. It's the manage scheduled messages. So you might wonder, like, where did all these messages go? So if you want to see some of the messages, like let's say the message about the marketing partnership. Let's say Roger comes back early and you need to now like cancel this Boomerang or whatever, or for whatever reason, you can reference the message here. You can see all the messages that we scheduled to send later. And then here you can see recurring messages. And so with this screen, you can also edit in line. So these all hands meetings, I think they were scheduled for Wednesday, but let's say all hands was changed to Thursdays now and we need to edit this email. You can go ahead and edit it here. And then I just want to update this to say Thursday. Okay, so that's Boomerang and how to manage both your incoming messages and your outgoing messages with Boomerang to be more productive. So I am going to stop sharing my screen now. I'm also going to open up the floor to questions. So if you have any questions, can you make sure you add them to your attendee or to the attendee chat box on the left, and I'm going to go through them now and read through them. So just give me a second so I can take a look here. Okay, it seems like maybe some people couldn't see the end of the demo. Is that if you couldn't, I'm recording the session, so I'll send it out. But sorry in advance if the screen went black for you guys. There is a question about Boomerang versus Gmail Snooze. So the nice thing about Boomerang is you can customize when you want to follow up with or have the email show back up at the top of your inbox. So with Gmail Snooze, I don't know how they're really looking at when they should bring it back to the top of your inbox, but I've seen it in my inbox, and it doesn't really have the customization that Boomerang offers. So like Roger asked me to follow up with that email on Tuesday, but Gmail Snooze might bring it back up on Monday or Sunday. Like there's no way to customize or control when that email shows back to the top of your inbox with Gmail Snooze. So yeah, if you guys are looking for more like a way to customize when these emails show back at the top of your inbox, which I highly recommend because you would only want like the most relevant stuff at the top of your inbox at all times, then you would use Boomerang. For Gmail Snooze, I haven't really used it as much, mostly because you can't really customize it. It's just built into Gmail. So yeah, I do see like reminders like, do you want to follow up? It's been 3 days, but I don't know what type of algorithm or controls that they're using for them to know whether or not that email is relevant to me to follow up in 3 days or 5 days or 6 days. You know what I mean? So that's, I guess, the main reason why people choose to continue using Boomerang over Gmail Snooze. So there's a question about message credits and how that works. So Boomerang's actually, there's two main plans, 3 if you count gmail.com. But basically there's a paid plan and a free plan. And the free plan comes with 10 message credits. So any message that you Boomerang or that you send later, that's all of those count as 1 message credit. So you get 10 message credits a month with the free plan. And then if you're on the paid plan, you just get unlimited. And so like I mentioned, when you're sending emails and you're waiting for a reply, you can just click the Boomerang if there's no reply for every single message you send out. And that'll utilize more than 10 message credits, because I'm pretty sure you guys are sending more than 10 emails a month. So we don't want to put a limit on how many messages you can Boomerang, because we don't know how many messages you guys are sending, but we obviously recommend that you use Boomerang for every single one, just so that you get the most out of your paid subscription, and also you don't let anything fall through the cracks. So that's how message credits work. And then yeah, you're either on the free or the paid plan. So there's a question about scheduling emails for different time zones or for people in different countries. And you can schedule emails for different time zones. I believe right now we have the US time zones built in, and we're going to be rolling out global time zones soon. I'm not sure the timeline on that, but you can schedule the emails for at least the US time zones right now. And then for any international time zones, the best thing to do, just so it doesn't get messed up on your end, is probably to just schedule it to go out 6 a.m. their time, but you can use a US time zone. So let's say they're in Europe, they're 8 hours ahead, and you're in San Francisco. So Europe is 8 hours ahead of San Francisco. So you might want to schedule your email for like 11 p.m. San Francisco time, which would be 7 a.m. in a European time zone. Yeah, so there's another question about scheduling reminders if you don't get a reply from your clients. I think that's what I showed, but I can show it again if I'm not explaining it correctly or understanding your question correctly, let me know. But I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I might want to boomerang this if there's no reply. And you can set up when you need the reply by here. And what that means is this message is going to, or this message thread is going to show up at the top of your inbox to remind you that you haven't received a reply from this client. And then you can send a follow-up at that point. It's not going to send an email to your client if there's no reply. It's just going to send an email back to you to remind you. And then you can add a note here. You can add a note here, say like, I am waiting on a response from this client. Something like that. And then that note will show up with the email thread back in your inbox for you, and that's like almost like a signal to remind you to follow up with the client. Okay, so yeah, and then someone double asked about the time zone situation. So yeah, the time zone that Boomerang uses is based on your device's time zone. So whatever device you're using, whether that's like a laptop or desktop or mobile, your device has a clock on it and it's set to a specific time zone. So Boomerang's going to use your time zone when scheduling an email. So yeah, that's a great question. So if you are in an international location, let's say you're in Europe and you're trying to send an email to San Francisco, Boomerang will use the time zone that your device is currently using. Okay, so there's some other questions about having some of the Boomerang messages ending up in your spam folder. I haven't seen that issue come up a lot, but we do have a support team. So if you have any screenshots or specific emails that you're having trouble with, there on the screen right now, you should see our support email address. It's support@baden.com. You can send in a note to them with the issues that you're having, because I haven't seen that problem happen a lot for our messages ending up in the spam folder. What might be the case is that you might just need to add our mailing address as an approved contact in your mailbox so that it won't end up as spam. Also, Gmail is a smart solution and smart software. So if you mark it as not spam, it should stop marking those emails as spam. But I haven't actually seen that happen a lot with a lot of our customers, or I haven't heard that a lot. So we would like to look into it for you if you have a little bit more information that you could send us. Okay, so there is a question about separating political, personal, and advertising emails on a regular basis. This is not a Boomerang feature, but it does exist with Gmail. So I'm going to show you how that works with Gmail. I'm going to just share my screen again. So if you can see my screen, Here, there's a settings button on the top right, and it says configure inbox. And here you can put social promotions. These will include categories, and promotions generally tends to be advertising emails. Social tends to be like Facebook or Twitter emails. And that way, when you're looking at your inbox, you actually can just filter out any social and promoted emails. So I think there was a question about advertising emails. Those will most likely automatically just end up in this promotions tab, which actually I don't know why this is not in the primary, but maybe because it has a link for like a tracking link. But yeah, so that's how you would use categories, Gmail categories, to separate your primary inbox from things that like are important versus advertising emails. Okay, there's one more question about mobile and how is there any way to do this on mobile? So Boomerang for Gmail is a web extension, and so I did go through how you would use it on your desktop or with a web browser. But we do have an iOS app. So we actually have an Android app as well. So if you guys do need these features, like if you need inbox pause on your mobile, or you need schedule emails for later on your mobile because you're drafting emails on your mobile device and you don't want to send them like late at night, you can do that from the iOS app and the Android app. So you can download those. Right now they're in beta, so they're free right now. So I definitely recommend, if you guys do a lot of email on mobile, you can try those apps out. Okay, I think that was all the questions that we had. If there are any additional questions, again, you can tweet at us. Our Twitter handle is @Boomerang. And you can also email us. Our support email address is on the screen. It's support@baden.com. And I really enjoyed giving this webinar today. Thank you guys so much for joining. If you guys have any feedback, we give the webinars about every 2 weeks. So if you have any feedback on the content, let me know, and I'm happy to iterate it for the next batch of Boomerang users. All right, I'm going to drop off now. So I'll send out the recording later this week, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye.